Here we have the bell for our horn, and as you can see, I've already started cleaning it up on the wire wheel, but there was a lot of rust around the bell itself and on the inside, so I've got it sitting down here in my white vinegar pickling solution. I'm going to leave it there overnight, do a little more cleaning on it tomorrow before I start priming it. I had also started wire wheeling it in there some too. This actually should have a screen that goes inside of here. I believe it goes in there. Maybe it goes in there, I'm not sure. But there is a screen that actually goes in here. I guess it would fit in here because there is the recess for it right there. But that wasn't included with this, and it does have a little bit of a dent right here, and corresponding here. I'm going to have to try and get that out. As a result of that dent, the bell is twisted some. I'm going to try and straighten that out some too before I finish painting it. So that's all part of the restoration process. Okay, fellas, here we are again, back on our Sparton horn project, and I wanted to do an exploded view to give you an idea of the proper way that this would go back together. And so I have it laid out in the way it will go. Of course, this here is the horn cover, the engine cover, and this will go over here and sit on here and actually get screwed down in place. I have the screw inside. That fits on there. And you notice that the wires are not soldered. These wires, these aren't actually the exact proper end, but this is very close to it, closest I could come locally. These just slide in. It's a friction fit. These things here are spring-loaded and they hold them in place there. A little slot in there, and they just push in. This normally would be part of the wiring harness. So whenever you see them online for sale and they have this cover off, you don't see any wires on there because they're part of the wiring harness and they don't stay with the horn. So next then we have the engine assembly or the motor assembly, and of course we had talked already about this ratchet disc and the spring tensioner plate, and of course that would be facing this orientation, and you have a gasket, and then you have your diaphragm plate, and don't forget this little pyramid shape goes against the ratchet, and then you have another gasket. I had to make a gasket because the one that was on it was deteriorated. So that goes on next, and excuse my back. Then that would go in to the bell of the horn like this. So our next process is to assemble this all, and my problem is I don't have a 6-volt battery, but I'm trying to come up with a solution of how I can convert 12 down, and so we'll see what happens after I get it put together. What I'm going to do is assemble the motor cover, and I will show you how that ratchet disc rotates inside there so you get a better idea of how it actually functions. And then after we've got it all assembled together, then we'll test it. Alright, thanks again for watching. I know you probably can't see these very close up. I did want to say something about the nuts and bolts that hold the horn to the motor housing. I had earlier said in one of my other videos that they were rivet head bolts. Well, that's not exactly true. They are actually little carriage bolts. They have a square shank on the back side of the head that fits into these square holes here. If you can see that very well. See the square holes? on the bell for the motor. And so that's what keeps them from turning when you tighten the nuts down on them. And two of the bolts, of course, are longer to accommodate the mounting bracket, which my friend did not have with this horn. And the other four are shorter. And the two that had the mounting bracket attached to them also had lock washers. And those lock washers are a little bit different sized. I have them actually, you can see them down there. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. The camera doesn't focus very well up close. But those two washers there, I just painted them with metal etching primer. And I've done that with all of the parts. After I cleaned them thoroughly and got the rust off, then I sprayed them with metal etching primer before I put regular primer on. These nuts and bolts, I didn't bother to put regular primer on because they're in pretty good shape. So I just did the metal etching primer, and now I've just put the first coat, probably the only coat I'll need to put, of black. And I'm just using Rust-Oleum gloss black. And as you saw from the earlier pictures of the horn itself, it comes out looking pretty nice. So the next update will be putting it all together.